Our speaker today is Evita Grant, the dynamic CEO and founder of TecHustle. Evita is a true jack of all trades with a diverse background in chemical engineering, medical life sciences, and law. Raised by inspiring women, she's driven by a passion for empowering women-led businesses to conquer global markets. At TecHustle, she's building the largest small business trade network in Africa, helping African small businesses trade globally and competitively by providing financial services and international market access. In her talk, Ubuntu Entrepreneurship, It Takes a Village to Build a Venture, Evita shares how collective effort and community support are crucial to entrepreneurial success. Here she is.
I am not poor. Let's start from there. And I am not a mother. And yet, this quote by my friend, who's also a solo female founder, really resonated with me. Because sometimes building a venture sometimes I feel like a hamster in the wheel that goes you're running really fast, but the wheel doesn't seem to be moving much. Sometimes I feel that I'm immersed in water and I'm trying to keep my head above water and I'm kicking my legs really fast to just keep me afloat. Sometimes. And whenever I feel tired, defeated, overwhelmed, someone from my village, whether unknowingly, unwittingly, just comes along and picks me up, and I feel inspired to keep going. For many founders, building our venture is like raising a child. And in Africa, we have a saying that it takes a village to raise a child. And so in the spirit of Ubuntu, I am because you are, I am going to share 3 key stories that represent 3 key pillars of my entrepreneurial village. I grew up in Ghana, but I left in my late teens to go to uni in the US. So I never had a working professional experience in Ghana until I started building my venture. And you know, for me, all my working experience to date has been in the US, with a few experiences in Brazil and Morocco. And so when I started building my tech venture in Ghana, it was a huge adjustment for me, with my very Americanized expectations, to adapt to the way things are done in Ghana and other African countries. So Oriaku is a great friend of mine who represents the operational support within my village. And whenever I am filled with abundant optimism that everything is going to be perfect, or dire pessimism that the world is falling apart, Oriaku would come along with a mischievous chuckle and say, "Evita, manage your expectation." I met Oriaku by sheer luck. I was at a wedding in South Africa, and I was seated at a reception table, and there was a lovely Ghanaian couple there. So over chit-chat, I shared that, hey, I'm another Ghanaian. I'm actually on my way to Ghana from South Africa, and I'm trying to build a fintech company in Ghana. And the Ghanaian couple said, you really need to talk to Oriaku. And there at the dinner, they shared his contact with me over WhatsApp. So 2 days later, I arrived in Accra, and I reached out to Oriaku. And within a day or two, he actually met with me at his office. And within 15 minutes of me talking, saying who I was and what I wanted to build, Oriaku just said, let's go. And he walked me to the office of the head of payments at Bank of Ghana. And why did he do that? Because within 15 minutes of talking to me, he recognized that I really needed to start with understanding the regulatory environment in Ghana. And he was willing to open up his network towards me. What hasn't Oriaku done for me in building my venture? as I said, he's introduced me to regulators in Ghana and other African countries. He's introduced me to other fintech partners in Ghana and other African countries. He's identified talents for me to join my team. He's actually been a sounding board when I'm trying to make business decisions. Every time I've needed Orieku, he's actually answered the call. And so for me, when I think about building a venture, it's really, really difficult. And one thing I always say is that you really need to know someone who's been there and done that, who can actually point you in the right direction, because you don't want to waste time reinventing the wheel and making rookie mistakes. Have an Orieku in your village. Financing a business can be very, very challenging. And for me, when I started thinking about financing my tech venture, I thought equity financing. Why? Because in my world, tech ventures are financed by venture capital financing. That's all I knew. And also, what I knew, especially in the US, was that for every dollar that a white male founder raises, a black woman raises 2 cents. And yet, is still expected to have the same level of output and reach the same milestones. And so my VC financing journey has been a very depressing one. And so I happened to be attending a panel discussion of women and how they had founded their companies. Nikki happened to be actually on that panel. Nikki's an amazing Ghanaian woman who's building a tech venture that helps farmers increase incomes while reducing climate change risk. And Nikki, when she was talking about her experience of funding her venture, she mentioned that she relies on venture philanthropy. Venture philanthropy? I had never heard of the term. And so a couple of months later, when I was in Ghana, I reached out to Nikki, and she spent 5 hours with me just educating me about what venture philanthropy was and how she had been able to be successful in using it to build her company. And after the meeting, as I was reflecting back on my flight back to the US, I realized that I'd made a huge misstep when I was thinking about financing my venture. I had taken a tunnel vision approach to thinking about financing, and I had not really taken the time to explore other options. And so, through introductions that Nikki made, I spoke to other African founders that have used venture philanthropy to actually finance their ventures, whether it's in tech or in other industries. I also reached out to other founders that had used non-VC means to fund their tech ventures. And within a few months, I had met amazing founders that had thought innovatively and out of the box on how to finance their venture, whether it's through angel syndicates, corporate strategic investments, crowdfunding, and more importantly, all of them were willing to help me too. And so I had now diversified my village such that now I could now see the light at the end of a very, very long and dark tunnel when it comes to thinking about how I was going to finance my venture. I believe that you need to have a diversified village on trying to help you figure out how to finance your venture, and I would recommend that you all have a Nikki in your life that's willing to help you think outside the box and explore other options. The sudden death of key people in their companies that were really important for the day-to-day operations and needed to be replaced immediately. I always tell him that he really needs to write a book. And what was crazy when I was listening to this founder was that he would have kept going on. Like, he would have kept making sacrifices, doing whatever it takes to keep his venture alive, until his partner, his wife, said, enough. And when I heard that story, I remember thinking about the emotional support within my village. And why this is important is that for many of us as founders, our ventures are like our babies, and we're willing to make these great, intense sacrifices to actually build them. But Noel stands out from the emotional support within my village. Why? because Noelle is another phenomenal Ghanaian woman who has a PR communications firm and is also building a sustainable luxury fashion marketplace. And we regularly have chats. So during one of our regular chats, Noelle just said to me, Evita, it's okay to quit. You've worked really hard. You've been hugely successful. If you feel the time is right, it's okay to walk away. And you know what was so strange when Noelle was saying this to me? I found it extremely freeing. Because the truth is that I have so many friends and family that have shared their networks, shared their knowledge, shared camp. So if there is ever a time when I'm talking to her, she feels like I'm going overboard, she could be like that African founder's partner and say, Evita, enough. So for all of you, including in addition to the cheerleaders in your village, I would say make sure you also have a Noelle in your village. I share these 3 stories, and one thing I'll say is this. All of these people came into my life by sheer luck, by sheer chance. I always tell my friends that I'm highly blessed and highly favored, right? Because I just go through life and incredible people come my way. But my takeaway for you is this. Don't be like me and leave it to chance, right? Be really intentional and purposeful about building your village. Thank you.